new star to this team, Darren Hancock. Jordan will reset.
Saying that they're giving Hancock the outside shot.
Almost turned it over. Jordan makes the move over Reynolds. And the first two of the game, Adonis Jordan.
Matching up Hancock and Cheney. This is what to watch early. Cheney movement without the ball, something Hancock really has to learn, and there it is.
Cheney inside. Henderson couldn't handle it. Scott takes it away.
Overplaying right behind Pauly, letting him handle the ball down low.
Turnaround for Pauly. Rebound to Cheney.
Good block out by Cheney. Kept Scott off the board.
Bounce pass to Nover. He'll hold up. Bailey with Walters on him. Bailey was really cold in New York. Billy scored 3 points in 2 games is all.
I think this assignment into the starting lineup is a little bit of a motivational factor.
Here he is, Damon Bailey on the drive. Does not get the roll. Cheney on the follow.
Kept it alive.
And here's Henderson with a whistle inside. Foul against Kansas.
Now, Nover will not get credit for either rebound in that particular case, but by pounding and pushing the Kansas players down into the basket, he gave room for Henderson's rebound.
Scott's foul, a non-shooting situation. Indiana inbounds underneath.
Straight man-to-man out of bounds. Look for the inside screen.
Nover got it over Walters. Worked the body, but could not get the layup. Here's the save. Well, comes out to Jordan. Walters on the wing.
Yes.
Score the basket and a foul against Indiana.
You know, Jim, it's really interesting in regard to Walters. He played in the Big Ten, obviously, at Northwestern, where he was a leading scorer in his second year at 17 a game. Had 23 down at IU against IU in Bloomington, but now he's back with a team that's capable of winning and playing, not just being in the game, but being on the victorious side. It'll be interesting to see how he matches up today.
You mentioned in the open, after transferring from Northwestern to embellish, he could not play in that Final Four season for Kansas 2 years back, but he was able to participate in the warm-ups, the Friday practice at the Final Four here at the Hoosier Dome.
Boy, great defense by Jordan to hold off Reynolds on that drive.
Henderson outside, and Nover gets it underneath. Indiana's first two belongs to Matt Nover. Scott on the blocks. And Henderson, their best rebounder, pulling another one down. Cheney thought about challenging Hancock. Reynolds down low and offensive on Reynolds.
Roy Williams said that Hancock, one-on-one defense, the man with the ball, in that particular case it was Cheney, can play with anyone. He has problems away from the ball, but you can see that he has done a fine job keeping Cheney away from the offensive thrust. And there was the back in that time by Reynolds. Trying to post up a much smaller Jordan.
4-2 Kansas. Indiana controlling the board 6-1 at this point, but inside Scott puts it away.
Well, there's that weak side help that Indiana uses so well, but it worked against him that time because the ball was tied up. Nobody picked up Scott.
Scott was the leading scorer against Georgia this week. 18 points, 8 rebounds.
You know, his 12 shots are the most he's ever taken in his career. Kind of interesting. Really overplaying the passing lanes.
Nover leans in, gets his own miss. Nover with another basket for Indiana. He has all 4 of the Hoosier points.
Well, he has a chiseled body and only 6'8", but a very good leaper.
Walter misses the 3.
Indiana really pushing the ball down the floor.
Cheney with his own 3 at the other end.
Jim, that's what makes him so tough. Hancock has been doing a good job cutting him off on the inside, so he steps outside for the 3. Very versatile player. Surprised Indiana's letting the ball go into the post so easily. Everybody playing on the back. That should allow some cutting and some passing away from the ball for some shots. There is one.
Hancock. And another rebound for Henderson. On the wing, Cheney again. 3-pointer, yes. 6 points for Cheney.
Cheney's experience taking over on Hancock a little bit right now.
Walters driving and drawing the foul on Bailey. Doesn't look like much contact to me.
See that Roy Williams recognizes that some fellas may be emotionally spent here a little bit. Really not physically tired, but emotionally tired. He's going to make some subs.
Dead ball situation, and officials timeout. On the left is Ostertag, Greg Ostertag, 7'2" center. Also in is Patrick Ritchie, 6'8" junior from Missouri, Lee Summit, and Steve Woodbury, the best sixth men in college football last year. In college basketball. All right, there's a three for Adonis Jordan. Yeah, Woodbury comes in and gives this team a lift, Billy.
Well, just as we have Greg Graham sitting on the bench potentially, he's actually the second leading scorer for IU so far this year, and he's going to explode off that bench pretty soon.
Nover very active early inside. He draws the foul on Ostertag. Billy, there are some rule changes. Let's get everyone up to speed on the 92-93 rule changes. All contact technical fouls now count towards the player's own count and the team's total fouls. The shot clock will not be reset now with less than 5 seconds when the ball is deflected out of bounds. If there's 1 second, you know, you have 1 second to put it back into play.
Well, Jim, not very detailed in regard to a number of changes in the rule, but one of the points of emphasis, and we just saw it on the last play, is where an offensive player uses his body to try to gain advantage over the defense, and that was one of those close calls. Did Nover use his arms to clear a path, or did the defense stick the arm in there? And it's something we'll see called very closely this year.
Ostertag takes it away. The rebound. Indiana's brought in Greg Graham for Chris Reynolds. Walters, this time he hits the three. Boy, he was off against Georgia. Only 2 out of 10. An hour after the game finished, Walters was out at Fog Allen Fieldhouse shooting more jumpers till midnight.
He's a hard worker. Look at him move those feet defensively. And talking, he's asking 5. He's hollering to the referee, 5-5. Good overplay that time.
Cheney high off the glass, and he has a
up. And what happened? Ostertag went to make the inbounds pass. A very smart play by Damon Bailey, cutting off the passing lane to Jordan. Ostertag stepped inbounds, and of course, violation. Indiana's ball.
Bailey right over Ostertag, and Cheney has to bring it back out.
Ostertag on Cheney. Now that's a mismatch. He can take him quickly. There it is.
Yep, baseline jumper. Right back to Cheney.
Tough pass.
Tough pass. Did it touch Indiana? Yes. Kansas basketball.
You know, I watched Cheney work out yesterday in his shooting drills. I have not seen a player his size and quickness be that effective and work that hard on the fundamental drills since Bernard King was in college at the University of Tennessee. I think he's going to be that kind of player on the next level.
His numbers were down a little bit last year, Billy. Point average, shooting percentage. Why?
Yeah, I think it was more team than it was himself, the way the team played. But he is very explosive.
Walters rattles out, but chased down by Woodbury.
Ostertag is big target in there. They've got to get him the ball some. Nobody looking for him. Setting solid screens now. Just ignoring the big man on the inside.
Ritchie needs some help. He finds Ostertag. They have 20 on the shot clock. Walters on the drive. And the pass batted away, stolen by the Hoosiers.
Good job by Allen Henderson.
Nover called for it. This is the 5-footer. And a foul on Henderson of Indiana.
That was a brilliant play by Ostertag there. Instead of chopping or trying to block the shot, he held good defensive position, forced a tough shot by Nover. You know, this young man, Jim, and I have to see it to believe it, can stand on his toes and touch the rim. Supposedly the tallest man, including Wilt Chamberlain, ever to play at Kansas.
Do you believe that?
You know, in those days,
I thought Wilt was 7'2".
Well, I can remember when I was in high school and Wilt went off to Kansas. And, you know, I think if you just said you were 7 foot, nobody ever measured you beyond 7 foot. I think that Wilt's taller than 7 feet and was at Kansas. Sean
Pearson is in for Kansas. And Scott has also returned. Richard Scott, here he is. Ostertag, well, they were trying to get it to him.
There's a bad pass that time by Woodbury.
Give Henderson credit for the steal.
Look for Damon Bailey to go inside on Rayford.
Three-pointer for Greg Graham.
Roy Williams very confident with his bench so far. He goes to it early, even though the score doesn't indicate that he can afford to do that.
Here's Calvin Rayford in at the point. Bounce passing it inside to Scott. And last touch by Kansas.
And what Roy Williams is doing, he's going to force Bob Knight to go to the bench. He's going to keep fresher troops out there. You'd have to look at these two clubs, and right now you'd have to say that Kansas a little deeper, particularly with size.
Brian Evans is in for Indiana.
Good shooter. Nice game against Seton Hall.
Cheney. That's a two.
Third good solid jump shot.
We talked about Ostertag being the tallest Kansas player ever. They say Rayford in at point right now is the smallest ever to wear the Kansas uniform, 5'6". Looking forward to seeing him, Billy. He is supposed to be super quick.
He is quick. Couldn't get the ball to Ostertag. You need to throw it up above.
Here's Rayford. That's a three, and he drills it.
Big points off the bench for Roy Williams.
His first points as a Jayhawk. A three-pointer for Calvin Rayford.
Hey, Kansas picking their defense up out higher now. Going to go for some traps. Somebody should be open.
Henderson. Open baseliner for him.
Great recognition by Indiana. They saw the trap, had the ball way out, had good spacing for the pass on the sideline. Trying to set some back screens to get the lob inside.
Ostertag, too strong off the glass, and Henderson boxed out.
But that could cause a lot of problems for Indiana. They have nobody that size.
Three-pointer for Graham. Oh, Indiana, 4 out of 5 from three-point range. And the Hoosiers lead by 7.
Jim, that's amazing because they came into this game only shooting 31% from three. Good block out by Henderson.
Henderson with another rebound.
Williams ready to bring in 4 starters.
That's a reach in on Pearson. And an officials timeout. 22-15. Indiana midway through the first half, lead by 7. Billy, what are your thoughts so far on this game?
Jim, coming into this game, Indiana, despite being 4-0, was being out-rebounded as a team. Today, they're actually on the boards, 12-4 advantage in their case. And also, in regard to Kansas, a club that shoots so well from the floor, they're only shooting 40%, the same that they did against Georgia. So I'm sure that Roy Williams wants to pick that up.
Todd Leary's in the game for Indiana. Here's Cheney. A rare miss for him today, and the rebound by Scott.
You see Kansas back to their original starting lineup. Knight having to go with some subs.
Pauly picks it back out. Walters left open. Missing the three, and a loose ball picked up by Pauly. Scott inside, forget it. 2 points for Scott.
I really think that Kansas' answer with their starting lineup and when they bring Ostertag in the game is to pound the ball down inside more against Indiana. Make them defend the low post.
Nover, leaner for 2.
Only 6'8", but high jumped in high school 7 feet, so that's why he's not afraid to go down inside.
Nover with 8 points. Indiana had an exhibition game against the Cuban Nationals this week, and he had 37, so picking up on offense. Nover.
See, there it is, down inside, pound the ball in there, get on the foul line.
And a three-point opportunity. Right between the defenders. Scott off the glass for 2. And the foul on Nover.
Jim, this was like what I was talking about. Indiana, if they're going to have a weakness this year that you can take advantage of, is to pound that ball down inside and make them defend the low post. They're not that big in size, particularly with Henderson out of the game, who's their #1 shot blocker. You can get yourself on the foul line. And as we know, remembering last year's game, Indiana against Duke, both of those teams shot more fouls than the other team attempted, but in that particular game, it was Duke that had that huge advantage on the foul line. That's a key.
Pauly kicked it back out to save it for Kansas, and it comes back to him.
Tough shot.
Scott fighting for it with Nover. No, that's Leary. And the arrow belongs to Indiana. Actually, Brian Evans back into the game for Indiana. Scott will sit.
You can see how Roy Williams is really going to use that bench. Going to play 11 guys, and Bob Knight has had to adjust a little bit by getting some fresh people out there, Leary being one of them.
So Scott sits with Woodbury replacing him.
Full court trapping pressure.
Foul outside on Walters.
Hand check by Walters, and he gained an advantage by checking. Graham so quick with that pump fake.
That's the first on Rex and the fourth on Kansas. 9:18 to go in the first half. 24-19 Indiana. Cheney a step to the basket and off the front of the rim. Pauly has it for Kansas. Jordan, open three, long rebound to Leary. Leary's the player who had 3 3-pointers in the last minute against Duke at the Final Four last year. That time he turned it over.
Jim, really, he had those in 25 seconds. It seemed like he was never going to stop. All it was, in his particular case, is Indiana ran out of time. Seemed like he'd never miss one.
Henderson comes back, so does Reynolds for Coach Bob Knight.
Well, Bob Knight being very perceptive, realizing that Roy Williams is going to try to wear his starters down. Knight starting to go 2 at a time, getting his starters out, giving them that little 2-minute rest. There's that back screening by Kansas again, and then a step out.
Walters gives it up to Pauly at the last minute. What a block by Henderson. And Indiana has a break opportunity. Well, they pull up from behind. Hancock reaches in.
Last year, Henderson #1 on IU's team in blocks with 50, picking up right where he left off. He has excellent timing, long wingspan. Here you see him come out from underneath the basket to help out a teammate. Great play.
Alan Henderson, only 19. He'll turn 20 next Saturday. A biology major. His father's a cardiologist here in the Indianapolis area.
Jim, do you believe that line that Bob Knight says the reason he puts him at forward is because his mother doesn't want him announced as a center? Do you think Knight would listen to him, Mom? I'm not buying that one.
I think so.
No, I don't either.
Whatever you want to say he plays, he plays
player, right?
an outstanding game of basketball.
Yeah,
6 for Henderson.
Good judgments that time by Jordan. Smart ball player in the backcourt.
Hancock, a rather quiet start. Now he drives. Some thought he might have traveled. Instead, they say a foul on Indiana. He was pushed off.
Well, he has an explosive first step to the basket. Be very difficult for a bigger man to guard him, but because he has that ability to leap so well, you've got to put a man with some size on him.
Henderson pushed him for the foul. There's an official's timeout. Hummery, Indiana inside with an 18-point advantage. It's Nover with 8, Cheney with 10. Higher field goal percentage and rebounding. That's why they lead by 7.
Rebounding, particularly offensive rebounding, Jim, has really been the key because they've been not only getting the offensive rebounds, but scoring off it.
Ritchie.
Nice pass.
Finds Scott. Slam time for Scott. His second dunk of the game, 8 points.
Just an excellent pass by Ritchie. He could have tried to make a hard layup. Good help inside. Good double down by Ritchie.
Bailey needs a shot to go for his confidence, and he gets it off the glass for his first 2. Again, he had only 3 points in the 2 games in New York at the NIT semis and finals.
Scott just too tough down inside.
Look at him again. Turnaround for Scott now with 10.
Jim, I think Indiana's going to have to front him a little bit or side him. They're playing right behind him. He's given an imposing picture for an easy pass down inside. Just too tough for Indiana.
Dover, tough shot.
Not the shot that Bob Knight would want.
Scott with another board for the Jayhawks.
Remember how well he played in the Final Four here.
Off the back of the rim this time. Woodbury picks up the loose change.
Now it's Kansas on the offensive board.
They're within 3, 28-25 Indiana.
Nice by Bailey. Nice play.
Great penetration. He had the roll.
You know what? You know what Bailey recognizes now? He's too quick for Richie on the matchup. So instead of playing a passive game, he's taking it right to him.
Scott, he pushed off, getting position inside. That's his second. Tomorrow, the NFL Today join Greg and Terry for the complete playoff picture, plus the latest news, including an update on John Elway. He's out tomorrow against the Cowboys. When will he return this year? They'll talk about it. That's tomorrow, 12:30 Eastern Time. The NFL Today, the last word before kickoff. And as for the games, Minnesota at Philadelphia, that's a good one early. Detroit at Green Bay. The 4 o'clock set includes Dallas at Denver. And Washington against the Giants. Rex Walters back in for the Jayhawks. Baseliner, Chaney. Tipped up by Nover. And last touch by Kansas.
You know, it's interesting. Chaney is now getting like Scott May. He doesn't take what the defense gives him. He moves until he gets the shot he wants, just as he did that last time down the floor. Big difference.
Walters now on Bailey.
Gets a little more quickness there. Richie was really too slow for him.
Bailey again. 3 baskets here in the last minute. 6 points for David Bailey, the all-time high school scorer in the state of Indiana.
Only 4-time All-Stater in the history of the state of Indiana.
Don't forget the way he went out, too. Yeah. Woodbury missing the 3.
Pushing off that time. Paulie really got away with one. Woodbury better be careful. Almost backed himself out beyond going into the backcourt. Good double screen.
Off the screen, Walters should have had that one. That's his kind of shot. And Paulie with a really wild throw to the corner for Hancock.
You get a feeling, Jim, that Walters is not really in the flow of his jump shot. On that particular case, he was falling back a little bit, even though he was wide open. I think when a guy gets in a nice flow with a jump shot, he's moving slightly forward, not fading.
So the Indiana leads back up to 7. They're looking for more. Under 5 minutes to go in the first half.
Damon Bailey doing a good job moving without the ball. He's fading out to the side, and Walters lost sight of him on a couple of occasions.
Evans. Now Chaney was cutting to the basket. Turnover.
There's where you want to keep that ball in possession with both hands, because you can pull it back then and hit a nice, good backdoor cut move.
There's Ostertag coming back in, Billy. We talked about him being able to touch the bottom of the rim, standing on his toes. He has a 9'6" reach.
He's spending a lot of time outside the top of the key. I think he needs to get down underneath that basket and present a target. There he is.
Wanting it. 3 players on him. He gets it back out. Richie with a great pass. But Hancock wild with the layup try.
Hancock worried about getting his shot blocked. Nice hands over. And there's that one-on-one against the ball defense by Hancock, doing a good job. Oh, good move by Bailey.
Bailey puts it up. Oh, he'll shoot 2. Foul on Richie. That's the 7th on Kansas.
You can feel Bailey's confidence improving, Jim, each time down the floor. He's moving so well without the ball, getting himself in position to score very well. I think it's been well documented last year in games that IU did not play well. Bailey was under his average by almost 9 points. Had 3 games where he didn't score at all. And just a matter of confidence and getting himself in the game.
Donis Jordan back in at the point for Kansas. Also Scott after a blow.
You know, as great as this guy is, and when you think of Indiana high school basketball players, you think of great shooters. The Rick Mount, you know, jumps right out the Larry Birds. And this is an area where Damon Bailey, as great as he was even on the high school level, and since he's been at IU, has not been a good free throw shooter. That's 50% this year. Now he's under 50%.
3 for 8 on the season. What a try for a save by Evans, but into the hands of Jordan. 3 on 2. Hancock on the wing. Left-handed, no less.
Nice Nice jump stop by Hancock and exploded off it. He's fired up for that one. Double team. Evans open for the jump shot, but they can't get the ball to him.
Cheney over Ostertag.
How about that inside curl move by Cheney to get open?
12 for Calbert Cheney. Walters set up now. Got the feet square, all set for the jumper. Can't find it.
Still backing up with the jumper.
Ostertag, however, follows it up for his first two.
At 16 in the opening round game last year in the NCAA tournament, his big offensive production, but certainly capable of more.
Three-pointer. Bailey can't make the free throws, but scoring from the floor now with 9.
I think Bob Knight didn't know a little something today, starting him in the game, build up that confidence. Eastside screening.
Hancock, three-pointer.
Indiana's giving him that shot.
Boy, that was not a very pretty-looking jumper.
Cheney moving again down inside. Somebody cut to the basket. They got a layup.
Oh, they caught him on Cheney.
Well, Bob Knight's going to be upset with Cheney there in one respect. He waited too long to release the ball, and nobody was cutting and moving without the ball.
So 2:40 to go in the half. An official's timeout. An 8-point lead.
By 8 coming up at halftime. We'll tell you about Barry Bonds' latest contract offer. And you knew somebody was going to mention it before the end of the day. March Madness. It's just a couple of months away. We'll find out who the coaches think will be making them craziest throughout the season. Back to you, Jim.
All right, Andrea. We'll look forward to that. Thank you. Kansas will inbound with 2:40 to go in the first half, trailing by 8. Albert Cheney getting a rest before the half.
Jim, one of the things that Indiana has to look out for, there have been some tremendous droughts they've gone in their wins so far. Walter's really struggling with his jump shot. Again, I think it's the fact that he's not moving into the basket at all. But they had that 19-0 run against Tulane when they were up by over 30. Seton Hall and Florida State made big runs on them.
Reynolds, look at this one. Oh, thought it might drop. Ostertag snares it.
You can touch the net and not be a violation as long as the ball is not down inside the rim, and that's why Nover got by with that one. The ball was up above in the cylinder, but not inside the ring.
That deflected off of Jordan, so Indiana gets it back.
Cheney on the bench. Where are the points going to come from? Damon Bailey is one of them. Graham the other.
Good pass by Bailey. Nover misses the lay-in.
Bailey kept it alive. He's having a solid first half.
Nover with position on Ostertag. A clean block by Ostertag. Walters ball down this time. Hardest shot of all, and he makes it.
Well, you can have contact and not have a foul, and that was the case because neither player gained an advantage.
7 for Walters.
That'll look for Greg Graham. Get him a jump shot here.
Driving on Woodbury. Nover scoring. And a chance for one more.
Indiana dodged a bullet there, Jim. That was not a good shot by Graham.
Near the conclusion of this game, Billy and I will select a Chevrolet player of the game from each team. Chevrolet donates a $1,000 scholarship to the General Scholarship Fund of each school. Foul was on Walters, his second, and now Pauly comes back in. Ostertag sits. So Nover with a three-point opportunity.
Jim, some interesting stats coaching-wise. Roy Williams, 27-1 in December. If Coach Knight wins today, he passes one of your favorite coaches from the University of Houston.
Guy Lewis. Guy Lewis, 592 wins.
That's right.
And 5 Final Fours. I'd like to see Guy Lewis get some Hall of Fame consideration. What do you say about that, Billy?
I definitely think that he falls in that category. The other thing that's kind of interesting, Fog Allen at the number 4 spot was 746 wins. Dean Smith now at 742. So that Kansas-North Carolina connection continues.
It was a foul on Richard Scott, his third. And Richie comes back in. And 9 team fouls on the Jayhawks. So 1-1 for Nover. And the coach's son comes in, Pat Knight. 6'6" sophomore. Nover came into the starting lineup for Indiana right at the time where they started to make that run at the NCAA tournament. They lost 2 of the last 3 regular season games, and then he started all 5 tournament games.
And is more than just a screener in this offense, as we've seen today. Nice hustle by Walters.
Yep, saves it for Woodbury. High arching 3, drops.
Yeah, that's a mark of a quality player. All Big 8 player last year. Things not going well for him offensively, but he's still sticking his nose down on the floor.
That night, inside Bailey. They work it around on the line. Reynolds took the jumper. It was a 2 try. And Ritchie rebounds for the Jayhawks.
Indiana can get a better shot by a person that's more likely to hit a jumper than that with that kind of time on the clock.
They can save it for the last shot. But Walters goes to the hole and draws the foul. Greg Graham doesn't like it.
What Walters can do when you're having this difficulty with your jump shot is try to get in an extra step. You know, instead of being out for looking for the threes, drive and penetrate as he did there. Move in a little bit when you come off a solid screen. Get a little bit shorter jump shot till you get comfortable.
Here's the only true freshman on the Indiana team. You saw him, number 11, Malcolm Sims, coming in for Reynolds.
Picked IU without visiting the campus.
Yep, an Ohio High School Player of the Year from Shaker Heights, Ohio. Walters, first of 2. He's 3 out of 9 from the floor, Rex Walters. This free throw could put the Jayhawks within 4.
His game against Georgia, where he only scored 7, was low at Kansas. Only been under double figures twice since he's been there.
Well, he'll sit down, and Hancock replaces him. Full court pressure by Kansas.
See, Bob Knight tried to get Chaney in the game, and I was wondering, where is Chaney? You want to have him on the floor there for that last shot.
Bailey finds the open man. It's Sims, the freshman. Nover out high.
Basically, Bailey and Graham got to be the 2 guys that have the ball in their hand to score here.
They say double dribble.
Yeah, Bob Knight really got caught there in the fact that he couldn't get Chaney in the game. Be good now not to put Chaney in the game. Got 11 seconds to go. Don't want him to pick up a cheap foul, but he's going in there anyway.
It's the 6th turnover on Indiana. Only 11.8 seconds to go in the half. We'll bring Walters back in for the offense. And Hoosiers leading by 7 or 8, it seems, most of the half. That lead could be reduced to about 2 or even 1 with a 3 here.
Nice one-on-one move. And
Sims
got there too late.
Sims deflected it, but got a piece of the arm. So Jordan will shoot 2. Hancock checks back in for Coach Roy Williams.
And you see exactly what Roy Williams doing, saying, hey, I know who they want to get the ball to. They want to get the ball to Chaney. I'm going to put my best defender on him back in the game. Bob Knight makes a move here, brings Reynolds in for Sims to try to force the ball up the court quickly. 5 seconds to go, plenty of time to get off another good shot.
2 shots for Adonis Jordan. Roy Williams, first recruit at Kansas. 3-year starter at the point. He has 5 points and 2 assists here in the opening half.
Remember those head-to-head battles with he and Hurley. You know, really a great matchup. You know, 2 hard-nosed guys can put the ball on the floor, defend well.
They dueled at the championship game in this arena, April the 1st of '91. That cuts the lead to 2.
Stop that dribble penetration.
Reynolds, he'll have to fire from long range, and it's a 2-point game at the half. So at halftime, the score: Indiana 40, Kansas 38. Andrea Joyce will be a low.
Scott posting up down low. Let's see how he starts the second half.
Indiana's largest lead was 9, but Kansas scored the last 7 points of the first half. They cut it to 2, and now the Jayhawks can go in front with this 3, and they do. Kansas by 1, but Adonis Jordan.
Good experienced guard play. A drive to penetrate by Walters, and offset that time by Jordan. No way Indiana could defense it. Nice play.
So now dating back to the last minute and a half of the first half, that's 10 unanswered for Kansas.
We talked about those runs. Indiana's had a real problem with that. People having solid runs against them just when they're in control of the game.
Henderson takes 1 dribble to the hole and scores. 6 for Alan Henderson.
There it is. Scott again. He's got Henderson on his back. You can't let a man down that low behind you in that position. I'm really surprised that Indiana is playing exactly behind a guy like Scott. Bob Knight asking for more double down help, but a man's in perfect position to score there.
Scott is 6'7", Henderson 6'9", but the Jayhawk coaching staff told us that Scott plays better when he's outsized. He has some of his best games against big opponents. Graham off balance. And here comes Kansas with a 3-on-1. Jordan back to Walters, and the left-handed layup by the lefty Walters. 11 for Rex. 3-point Kansas lead.
I think it's time now to go ahead and get Calvert Chaney loose to score. He and Bailey got to be the two guys to touch the ball on this particular possession. Chaney's got to start moving better.
Henderson, that one's way off. Chaney on the rebound, push off by Scott. And that's 4 on Scott, Billy. That's a big one.
And here we have Kansas in the first half, Jim. You'll see all of their made field goals with a great percentage of them right down inside the paint. Now look at the misses. Basically their perimeter game. So the answer is keep pounding it down inside. Scott's got to go out. That's really going to hurt Roy Williams' club.
Yeah, he's responsible for a lot of that action inside, and he'll sit now with 4 personal fouls, replaced by Ritchie.
That could be huge because he's going to have to now sit for about a dozen minutes minimum.
Move by over, yeah, baseline, and he'll have a free throw attempt to tie it.
I think Nover is surprising a lot of the players from Kansas in the fact that he's being very aggressive offensively. Not known as a huge scorer, but he's taking what they're giving him right now and going to the hole.
Foul was on Pauly, his first.
There's been a problem for Indiana, the free throw line. It continues.
Now 1 out of 7 in the game. Good denial by Nover and the steal by the Hoosiers.
Now Walters gave that pass away. He was, he telegraphed the pass at too much distance.
Ritchie tries to get the steal, chased down by Graham. No foul.
Nice job by Jordan.
Chaney has a wonderful touch, and he has 14.
Again, you see that movement without the ball, Jim, to get himself the shot that he wants. Walters is hurt. Now, this could really put Roy Williams in some trouble because Scott already on the bench. Walters, who is not having a big game, but certainly important to this club from experience standpoint. Trying to run that sprain off.
So he'll stay in the game. Indiana by 1. 17 minutes to go. 2 against 3. Later tonight, 1 and 4. Duke and Michigan will meet in a rematch of the championship game. How about that game, Billy?
It should be really something. Of course, I think you've got to give the home team an advantage when you play a game this early in the season. But Michigan wanted to tone a little bit for that game down at Rice the other night. I didn't think they really had their head into that one.
Willis Wilson with a standout debut as the Rice coach. Here's Jordan. Tough shot right over Graham, and Jordan has 12 points. Puts the Jayhawks back in front.
Let's see if Chaney keeps moving well without that ball. Trying to get the shots that he wants. Wise to give it up.
Graham drove by Walters, and Walters reached in as he was escaping. That's 3 on Rex Walters.
Calling things tight with hand checking, defensive hand checking being called very closely in this game.
Hancock goes out, Walters out. Little Calvin Rayford's in along with Pearson, Sean Pearson. No, Rayford is not in there. All right. Pearson only. And here inside, rejection. Henderson shot swatted away by Pauly. Pauly way outside. And an aggressive rebound by Alan Henderson. This pass over to Bailey.
That's twice in this game that Bailey has run to the open area, and Indiana's been able to find him.
Three-pointer for Ritchie.
So you got to question both of the shot selections the last 2 times down the floor.
Oh, Pauly misses an easy lay-in. Chaney for Indiana clears. Bounce pass, a great
Timeout.
Greg Graham with the pass.
I think this is timeout Kansas. They made the nice run to get a working margin. They're taking bad shots right now.
Wow, 3 wild ones in a row. And batted away out of the hands of Ritchie. Kansas controls.
Now they can wait for a TV timeout, which they are, but they really need one now, and here they'll get it.
Yep, an official's timeout. Indiana leading by 3.
Jim, that's going to be an interesting test case because Indiana's going to appeal to see if he can't get a medical hardship on that. And you really think that there should be reason for granting it.
Pauly right over Nover, and Nover retrieves it for Indiana. Wonderful story. Calvert Chaney was the MVP of the NIT on the flight back. Here he is, Chaney. He gave his award to Pat Graham. He gave him the silver platter as the NIT's MVP.
Jim, you see how Chaney gathered himself that time, used his body to clear a pass so he could go right up in the air without fouling. He really has great inside moves.
Woodbury kind of left alone.
Ways to go.
Goes inside and gets it rejected.
Now Kansas, and this kind of surprised me a little bit. About the last 4 possessions, they've been going one-on-one. Remember the 2 outside jump shots that came from nowhere? Now you see Woodbury going one-on-one. They're losing their team concept. Much easier to defend a team that tries to go one-on-one rather than staying with the club.
Chaney at 3. Long rebound to Woodbury. Indiana by 5, 52-47.
Need to punch the ball down inside some. Make some easy shots here.
Pearson. There's a nice move.
3 for 3 from the outside against Georgia. There he shows he can move inside with a medium range jumper.
His first bucket of this game, and it's a 3-point lead for Indiana. Chaney over Pauly. Oh, what a soft touch. Side of the rim, back of the rim, front of the rim, and it drops.
He explodes, doesn't he? And then he has that soft shot.
18 for Chaney. Pearson made the move on the last possession. Time to get back out to Woodbury.
Chaney, a nice drop step defensively to cut him off. Double down in low again.
Pauly almost lost it. Here's Pearson. 3-pointer. Yes. 5 quick ones for Pearson, and the Jayhawks are back within 2.
Pearson is now 4 for 4 from that outside range.
Graham.
He's also looking for a hat before he catches cold as Graham blew by him.
Ritchie rejected by Henderson, but they say Henderson got a piece of the arm.
Well, anytime the ball goes inside, you can see Indiana's been doubling down from outside, normally with the man who's guarding the passing. That particular time there was a good clear out, so there was no help on Ritchie whatsoever. Henderson was in a bad defensive position. You're not going to get help from the outside if you can play behind like that. You're dead.
It's the 3rd on Henderson. He'll sit.
Both teams with some foul trouble here. Scott sitting down with 4 for Kansas. Much more serious for Roy Williams.
Evans comes in for Henderson. Ritchie to attempt 2. Ostertag is also into the Jayhawk lineup, and there's Calvin Rayford. There's Ostertag.
Ostertag without 5 front teeth. They said he lost them in a water slide accident. I'd have to ask the guy with a size 20 shoe, what is he doing on a water slide?
Little too big, I think, for the old water slide, right?
Yeah, I think you'd have to tell him.
Oh, they call it on Chaney.
Yep. Good double team.
Ritchie drew it.
There was no help for Chaney at all. And IU has to realize on that double team that deep, they're going to have to throw over the press. You get the ball down in to a man that's that close to the end line. He's really being defended not only by the 2 men in the press, but also by the end line. He has no place to go, so it's a triple team.
3 on Chaney, 3 on Henderson. Chaney will join Henderson on the bench. Damon Bailey back in. He's 5 out of 6 from the floor with 11 points for the Hoosiers.
Jimmy, remember the play when Duke stepped out of bounds, remember, going for the ball on the inbounds pass? Yes. And you can't throw it that short a distance. Got to go over top of the press some. Nice give and go.
And Woodbury with the leap and leaner. And a 1-point Indiana lead. Yeah, that was the situation that set up, well, maybe one more chance for Leary, but they couldn't get it to him. Jamal Meeks attempted the 3 against Duke. Here's Evans. He hits Ritchie to commit. Tipped in by Nover. Hey, he's looking good, Billy.
Yes, he is. And Ostertag did a good job coming out and actually got a little piece of that, but then nobody blocked out Nover, so it wasn't Ostertag's fault. Got the defense backed in pretty deep now.
Walters. Wow, he was 1 out of 7 in the first half from 3-point range, and he pumps his fist in the air as he nails this one in the second half. That ties the game at 58.
Nover setting some screens on Walters now. They're trying to get Greg Graham open. There's a screen by Bailey.
Bailey.
Nope.
Off balance, Billy. A little bit. He wasn't set. And the push off on Greg Graham. So we're under 12 minutes to go. That means an official's timeout. It was a 2-point game at the intermission. Now it's even at 58. Shooting much improved for each team in the second half. 3-point field goals. Now Kansas getting a little better at it in the second half. Chaney leads the way for Indiana. Scott, top scorer for Kansas, but out with 4 fouls.
And Jim, you have to figure he's going to stay out till what, probably 7 or 8 minute mark. So Roy Williams going to lose a lot of production there. Here's that movement, looking for some back screens, a double for Walters.
Ostertag set a big screen, and Walters again back of the rim.
Now, I don't think Walters going to start making that jumper consistently until he starts squaring up to the basket and moving in a little bit on his release.
Falling backwards instead. Yep. Nover, too strong, and Ostertag has it. Game is tied. Kansas can break it here.
A push should count.
Nope.
That should count.
They wave it off.
He was in the act of shooting. He had started his motion. The ball doesn't have to be in the release. Watch and see if he isn't in the act of shooting. Gets hammered, gets pushed, glides across the lane.
Stand by it now that you've seen it?
Yeah, I think he was moving.
That's 4.
Some gliding shot there. Hancock out.
Indiana only the 3rd team foul, so Kansas inbounds underneath. That was on Bailey, his 2nd.
Chaney forcing Woodbury baseline. He's got help there.
Jordan, 3-pointer. Woodbury keeps it alive.
Had inside position on Nover.
That kid will play a lot of positions for you.
Yeah, he really does.
Woodbury.
He's had experience at center, both guard spots and the forward spot, so he knows how to play inside. Beautiful dish.
And there he is, Steve Woodbury. And a great pass by Rex Walters. Woodbury kept it alive on that possession. And we saw apropos that he scores the basket.
Right, we saw Walters in the first half dive on the floor to get a loose ball that created a score. There was the good pass.
Jordan with the steal. Thought he might have traveled, but instead he gets hammered by Nover.
Good judgment by Jordan. He realized he had to step on the 2 bigger, slower men, so he took it right to the basket.
Remember, we asked Adonis last night, what do you think of this game tomorrow? What's it going to be like?
It's a lot of screens.
Bunch of screens, bunch of screens.
Well, Bob Knight and Roy Williams believe in something. If you're going to play in either program, you have to learn how to pass, to screen, and to cut. Now, notice there are 3 basketball skills. It doesn't say anything about learn how to shoot. It says pass, screen, and cut. And that's what both of these teams do extremely well.
2 shots for Jordan. The foul on Nover. Nover's 2nd. Jordan says, as you look at Bobby Knight, when you have a name like Jordan and you play basketball, you better perform at a higher level.
And he does that.
And he sure does.
Boy, nice looking form in those free throws. Hit 2 big ones at the end of the half. Hey, look at it. Here comes a change in defense. Now Kansas showing a 1-3-1 trap. Jordan running the baseline.
They go to the trap with a 4-point lead.
First time today we've seen it. Let's see how Indiana matches up. Chaney and Graham on the wings for jump shots.
Graham 3-pointer.
Oh, that's a foul.
Walters held Henderson.
Now the foul problem's really mounting for Roy Williams because Walter's going to have to sit.
That's the 4th on Walters. And Hancock checks in. We're halfway through the second half. 10:09 to go. Kansas leads by 4.
Jim, how often do you see a guy reach with his hands instead of moving his feet, picks up the foul? There's a nice block.
Almost had the easy one inside. Adonis Jordan on the line, out of bounds. Indiana keeps it.
Jimmy, you talked about those cities up for the Final Four. This year, there were 131,000 applications for the seats to the Final Four for 35,000 tickets. 261 requests, 261,000 requests. And you know what state sent in more applications than any other? The state of Indiana. 21,000 requests for tickets out of the state of Indiana.
How many requests have you gotten already? I'm at least over 20,000 myself.
Turn downs.
Tickets are tough to get these days.
Oh. Nice curl move. And now Graham is saying the ball was tapped.
But they're not listening. Kansas has it with the 4-point lead. 10 turnovers committed by Indiana in this game.
Obviously, IU stays right with the man-to-man. Kansas showed us that 1-3-1 just one time. Backdoor cut, not there. Good defense that time by Graham.
Last 10 minutes, we might need a big game to see a big game from Hancock if Kansas is to win. He hasn't done much so far, Billy.
Well, Roy Williams getting by, getting this lead back with Scott on the bench.
Pauly with a nice move. Little shot put action.
That's interesting. You know, Pauly goes to junior college out of high school where he was not that heavily recruited. Sat out his first year of junior college. So, you know, he's had a lot of experience. Backdoor cut, Cheney.
Cheney with a quick basket at the other end. 20 for Cheney. Woodbury.
Soft shot.
And Hancock gives Kansas a second try. Nope, they say he turned it over. He double dribbled.
You know, Jim, when you talk about Roy Williams and, of course, a disciple of Dean Smith, and we talk about Mike Krzyzewski, a disciple of Bob Knight, but they both have created some of their own styles of coaching. And one of the big differences between Williams and Dean Smith in philosophy, I think, is that Williams will force the ball up the court quickly and look to take that quick jumper much more readily by more people than, let's say, a North Carolina program will do. But other than that, they are extremely similar.
That's a 2 just inside the line. They've had the highest field goal percentage in the nation since Williams took over.
And that's why he was so disappointed with that 40% shooting against Georgia.
Yeah, 29% of the second half. They let him back in the game. Hancock, tough move. Draws the foul. He'll head to the line for 2. The NFL lineup tomorrow on CBS includes Minnesota at Philadelphia. Herschel Walker of the Eagles goes against his old teammates at Minnesota. Detroit at Green Bay. That's a game in Milwaukee, actually. Dallas and Denver. Washington and the New York Giants. 3 fouls now on Bailey.
Jim, we talked about that North Carolina connection. Matt Doherty on the bench now for Kansas. Of course, was part of Dean Smith's greater teams. And I was talking to him before the game, and he said, you know, every once in a while I'll hear a statement. There isn't it right there. I'll hear a statement come out of Roy's mouth, which is exactly coming out of Dean Smith's mouth. The same thing he said. Sometimes on a turnover, you say a turnover is caused because you're either selfish or you're careless. Kind of a deep thought. There's a young man who have played for one great one and now working for another great one.
Yes, after 3 years as an assistant at Davidson. And his starter on that 82 national championship team. He ended his college career, in fact, Doherty, against Indiana. When Indiana beat the Michael Jordan team his last season.
Shy, good follow by Bailey.
Good try to save, but Kansas all over it. It's Ritchie.
Got the numbers.
3-point lead. Woodbury almost made it 5. Rattled out, and Cheney has it for Indiana. Under 8 minutes to go.
Cheney coming up with some big plays, and Jordan did a great job that time, realizing it was one man all the way back alone, that being Bailey for Indiana. He hustled to get back there.
Reynolds, oh, that was a long pass to make through a couple of defenders.
That brought Knight up off the bench. He's not expecting that type of turnover from an experienced vet that really this year is about 3-to-1 turnover-assist ratio. A lot of solid screens from the backside now by Kansas. Hancock not looking for his jumper. Like to drive. Chaney's giving him the jumper. See, Chaney just giving him the jumper, forcing the drive.
Hancock wanted to go baseline. Oh, they say it's Chaney. I thought maybe that was a turnover by Hancock.
I didn't see it either.
Officials timeout. Kansas by 3. CBS Sports coverage of NCAA basketball goal. Only 14 seconds on the shot clock. And back in the game for the Jayhawks is Richard Scott, saddled with 4 fouls.
Roy Williams let it go down to the 7-minute mark to get Scott back in there.
Walters still sits with 4. Here's Woodbury's 3.
They can get a better shot than that in this situation.
Indiana back to its starting 5.
Yeah, they're playing now their triangle offense down inside with Damon Bailey on the outside with Reynolds. He turns it over.
Unusual for Damon Bailey, a 5-to-1 assist-to-turnover ratio on the season coming in here.
Right. When you see this particular offensive set, Indiana really going to be setting a lot of solid screens down in tight, trying to pop Calvert Chaney loose.
Jordan driving, giving it up inside.
Again,
Scott
good
has
block.
it turned away. And Bailey will pull up for the Hoosiers. A 3 would tie it. Chaney over Pearson.
Oh, it counts.
And he'll get that 3-point try.
Now, Hancock on the bench right now. Pearson not quick enough to stay with Chaney. So a bad matchup right now for Kansas. We saw earlier today when Pearson, Greg Graham blew right by Pearson. Chaney coming up with some big shots here. Goes straight up on that release. Ostertag trying to block one from that distance. Not a good idea because that's got to be a goaltend if he touches it.
And the free throw would have tied it. So it's still a 1-point lead for the Jayhawks.
Scott posting it.
Lost control of it. Got it back. And he'll go to the line. Henderson may be tagged with this one.
Boy, that looked like a pretty good block, Jim.
It really looked clean from here. That is on Alan Henderson, his 4th. Team foul number 5.
We see Scott sitting down on him, goes straight up, lose the ball underneath the basket, then goes up for it. Boy, that looked like a pretty good block.
So Richard Scott will shoot 2 from Little Rock, Arkansas. Actually worked one summer for Bill Clinton. He distributed some flyers and pamphlets last time Clinton was campaigning for governor of the state of Arkansas.
President-elect. You must be one of those Bill Clinton guys. You remember he always used to refer to President Bush as George Bush. Now he's President-elect. Let's have a little respect there, Jim.
Greg Graham comes back in. Henderson out with the 4.
You know, both coaches are having now to juggle their lineups a little bit with this foul trouble because they'd like to end the game with the personnel on the floor. Here they come back to the 1-3-1 matchup.
Reach in going to be called on Woodbury.
That was due to a lack of coordination on assignments. Scott didn't know who was running the baseline, and he and Woodbury got confused. Woodbury got there too late.
6 on Kansas. The next one will be a 1-on-1 situation.
If you're an Indiana fan, you almost wish they don't get to the foul line the way they've been shooting them.
Kansas hasn't really been a great free throw shooting team in recent years.
No, their 2 best free throw shooting years ever are 2 years they had their worst seasons ever in recent Kansas basketball history. So maybe their fans don't want to shoot them either.
Nover on the blocks, comes up short, but draws the foul on Pauly.
Nover has a chance now to have his biggest scoring day ever. He can can some free throws.
Pauly's 3rd 2-shot situation for Nover.
You know, Jim, these are 2 of the teams we talked about being in the Magnificent 7. You see Rex coming back into the ball game. But one of the things that if I'm going to notice any weakness here, low post defense has not been really outstanding by either one of these clubs today. People have been able to get it down inside and kind of get the shots they want there.
Kansas with 2 players with 4 fouls, including Walters and Scott. Both in the game at the moment. And Henderson with 4 for Indiana. Over again, Indiana struggling.
They really are. They struggled from the foul line against Florida State, put that game into overtime. That one looked pure.
1-point game with 6 minutes remaining.
See how Scott's going to sit down inside again. He's got Chaney on him.
Comes up short. Chaney gets it for Indiana.
It's a great help by Nover that time on Chaney.
Hoosiers looking for the lead.
Screen. Nover's setting all kinds of screens downside, trying to pop Chaney out. Look at who's guarding Chaney. Scott's guarding Chaney. They ought to get him the ball. Try to foul Scott out of there.
There's that matchup.
That should drive on him.
Skips it over. Graham short. Rebound. Pauly.
Good hustle.
Reynolds saves it on the floor.
What are they going to call? Timeout, Indiana. Hustle play there.
Chris Reynolds.
Very
timeout
smart.
From the floor.
Smart play by Reynolds. He's on the floor. Now he gains control. Now he screens for the timeout. Brilliant play.
Play by Chris Reynolds. The save and the timeout gives Indiana another chance to regain the lead. Kansas by 1.
And now it's Scott playing up against Graham. I'd sure try to get Graham the ball and blow by Scott. But there he goes to try to pick up the 5th. Doesn't get it.
Scott just let him go. Loose ball. Walters this time makes the big save from the floor.
Well, I really have to question the shot selection. You're having a bad day. Get the ball down inside more. Walters, you can see, is trying to work on his release. It's not his release as much as his body movement, but, you know, you can get a better shot than that. You've got a 1-point lead. You've got Scott down inside causing him problems. You don't want to give up one that easily.
4 on Pauly. And team foul number 8. So a 1-and-1 Calvert Chaney. Indiana 2 of 10 from the free throw line. Just woeful. But Nover makes the play. And it has it stripped. So here comes Adonis Jordan.
Jim, what is that? 2 for 11 from the free throw line?
11.
Now you got Scott with Bailey on him. An opportunity with a smaller man to get something. Oh, that's his 5th.
Scott, yep.
Chaney drew the charge on him.
He threw the defender to the floor, and Scott is finished for the afternoon.
He ran right into Calvert Chaney trying to get position. Chaney didn't give up ground, and of course, see, you'll notice it's his job to see that man. Chaney was planted. So without question, a charge against Scott. Excellent call. He was so anxious to get down inside. There he's bleeding, Jim. So
he would have had to come out anyway.
Right, he would have had to come out of the game. The doctor would have had to administer and stop the bleeding, covered it.
Fouls out with the 13 points.
And here comes Hancock back into the game. Has not had big explosive game on the offensive end of the floor, but now it takes away that opportunity to go down inside.
1 away from the double bonus situation. Still in the 1-and-1 Indiana.
Jim, I'll throw something out that's kind of crazy with all the great tradition here at Indiana. Calvert Chaney is probably going to be, well, he will be, the first lottery pick that Indiana has ever had since the lottery system started. That's hard to believe, isn't it?
Well, you're talking about a lottery system really in the last 6 or 7 years.
That's right. So in 7 years, we're talking about one of the premier programs in America has never had a lottery pick. And if this guy is not one of them, some pro scouts have made a big mistake.
No, a lottery pick doesn't mean the same thing anymore. Now it's 11 players,
exactly.
Whereas it used to be 7. Indiana in front by 1. Chaney hits them both. He hits 26 now for the afternoon. That's his season average. Bailey playing tough D. The save by Hancock.
You don't want to pick up that dribble. Big overplays by Indiana. They've really picked up the defensive tempo here. They're giving Pauly the outside shot if he wants to take a jumper from the foul line. Can't get even a pass off.
4 minutes remaining.
Better get the ball in Jordan's hands.
10 on the shot clock. Woodbury driving.
That was all IU defense. That was a tremendous series right there for Indiana on the defensive end of the floor. Best that's been played all day. Let's see if Kansas matches it.
Reynolds guarded by Walters, who has 4 fouls.
Missed Cheney on a pop out.
Over Pauly. Got it. Career high 18 for Matt Nover. Walters again.
No, and there's a push by Damon Bailey. Not a good foul. Not a good shot by Walters. Not a good shot by Walters because he is having all kinds of problems from the perimeter. Look at it, Jim. When you realize you're not making them in a game this big, you can't afford to continue to take them. Penetrate and dish on the back outside. The missed shots that you see right there are the ones in gray. And that you can see Walters on the perimeter has been totally ineffective.
2 out of 10 from behind the line, behind the three-point line. Woodbury now after Damon Bailey picked up his 4th. This is a 1-and-1. And he connects. This man, Roy Williams, says Woodbury's my MVP, my most versatile player.
He's played all 5 positions, so you certainly have to go along with that one.
Was a center and a forward in high school. He's played them all here. So within 1 now. Indiana 69-68.
And look at Roy Williams goes back to the 1-3-1 trap. Jordan down on the baseline. Opportunity for an offensive rebound here from the weak side and the putback. Nice step in.
Pass to the corner, brought back out.
You can get an offensive rebound with Jordan under the basket.
Bailey.
There it is. There's the offensive rebound.
Nover ran it down.
Yep. If Nover had been a little bit closer, he's got an easy putback. One thing about a 1-3-1, if you got a small man in there, a lot of offensive rebound potential.
Cheney misfires from in the lane. And Kansas can take back the lead.
But is Jordan cool or is he cool? I mean, you know, he shows no emotion. Hancock trying to make a play.
Tip, Woodbury. Nope. Second try. And Bailey underneath.
Boy, Reynolds on a great block out against bigger people. Now you're going to see some screening, Jim. You see Reynolds, he's gone down inside now to set the screens.
Under 2 minutes. Indiana by 1.
The double for Cheney. There he is.
Ooh, Graham almost lost it.
But dead when it hit his shoe.
Shot clock now at 6.
Bailey's tough in there.
Bailey. Cheney maybe over the back.
Yep. We're seeing some excellent blockouts by smaller players in this game. I mentioned Reynolds down on one end of the floor for Indiana. That time a good job by Walters on his end of the floor.
So Patrick Ritchie comes in for Kansas, replacing Hancock. And Cheney has collected his 4th. That's the 9th on Indiana. So a 1-and-1 situation for the Jayhawks. A timeout is called. Timeout called by Kansas. The Jayhawks will go to the line when Packer back for the final 1:38. Each team with 2 timeouts, 1 foul away from the double bonus. Billy, let's talk strategy down the stretch.
Well, here we see Woodbury on the line. One of the real things is that Roy Williams early on realized that his bench was going to be a better situation than Indiana's. He's had his bench outscoring Indiana today 22-8. I think the key for the rest of this game is shot selection. And if I'm IU, I want to make sure that Calvert Cheney touches that ball every time down the floor with an opportunity to score. And if you're sitting over here in Kansas' spot with Scott out of the game, Jordan has to be much more selective as to who touches it on his team.
Woodbury hits them both. 4 for 4 from the line today, and Kansas goes ahead by 1.
Kansas really doesn't have a go-to man at this stage in the game, at least not proven here today, whereas I think Indiana does. There's that 1-3-1 again. Williams showing some real confidence in his defense.
But Jordan underneath.
And what it does, it takes away some of that inside screening to pop Cheney loose. Using a lot of time here.
15 on the shot clock.
Yeah, I'd let Reynolds go ahead and take the jump shot against this defense. I mean, if you're Kansas.
Bailey three-pointer.
That's a push by Walters.
He got away with it. That would have been his 5th.
Yep.
Kansas has the 1-point lead and the basketball.
Walters put his elbow right into Nover's back and forced him to go forward a little bit. Here they go. It looks like a little 4 corners here.
That's exactly what it is.
That's 4 corners. This is what beat them in the NCAA tournament last year.
They went out in the second round to UTEP.
Yep. Don Haskins turned the book on a North Carolina product.
Kind of a 15-second difference between these two. 14-second. Oh, what a shot.
Oh, there's Walters moving to the inside for a little jumper.
Indiana needs the 3. And they take the chippy 2 instead. They miss it. Miss it inside with Chaney. And Richie has the rebound.
There it is. Good job by Jordan to beat the defense. Jim, is this something we saw last year here? Kentucky beat Indiana in our opener last year on this floor.
Came down to a 2-point game in that one. And I remember Greg Graham had a chance to win it with a 3 at the buzzer.
Let me, for Indiana fans, something unusual. We said they won their first preseason tournament under Bob Knight, winning the NIT. You know, no NIT winner of this preseason tournament has ever won the NCAA championship.
Kansas was down 9 with 1:30 to go in the first half.
Jim, a critical free throw here, obviously, because down 3, a 3-pointer could tie it. You make 1, and it requires the 2 possessions. So this is a very critical free throw for Jordan, who has looked solid from the line so far today.
Perfect 4 for 4 for Jordan.
All Big 8 performer last year. Well, they were solid. He's hit nothing but net all day from the foul line. You know, this particular game, obviously, a lot of pride on the line for both of these teams, but I think both in the case of Roy Williams and Bob Knight, almost immaterial as far as the overall season is concerned. It's a building block.
Kansas by 5. And Graham, no chance. Walters has it. Kansas will win the Hoosier Dome.